Welcome back. Well, as Black History Month draws to a close, we take a moment to reflect on the powerful stories, struggles and achievements that have shaped Black history across the world. This year's observance carries added weight following the passing of Jesse Jackson, the veteran civil rights activist who stood alongside Martin Luther King Jr. in the fight for equality and justice. To help us unpack the meaning and lasting relevance of this month, we are joined by Dr. Kletus Likuwa, senior researcher and historian, for deeper insight. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Well, to start with, Doctor, why is Black History Month still important today, especially if we involve young people in the sentiment?
Well, I think it's very important, especially considering that Black violence, for example, continue to unfold in the very eyes of the youth today. And it's very important that Black History Month, for example, provides some historical context to the Black struggle over years, particularly the Black violence that they've come to receive from most of the political powers that be. So I think Black History Month provide them that historical context of the Black struggle, particularly also their agency in terms of how they've responded over time, over history, towards this violence. And considering too that most of these histories, Black histories, are not so well represented or at times misrepresented in mainstream history, particularly in school curriculums or university curriculums. It is actually a chance for many young people to be given this kind of representation that they will not always get in the main history curricula.
Yeah. When we generally think of Black History Month that is commemorated throughout the month of February, we associate it, of course, with American Black history. But why is it important for African countries to actively commemorate Black History Month as well?
Well, I think for African countries, we seem to have some commonalities as Africans with the struggle for Blacks all over the world, particularly those in the diaspora. We know, for example, that we all underwent, for example, almost similar struggles against slavery, right? Something that have impacted especially also our Africans in the diaspora, and it's the same for us. So I think there's a lot for us to learn from each other in terms of the experience of Africans or Blacks, both in the diaspora and Africans, so that at least we find a common ground on how we begin to speak, for example, about the issue of racism that have underpinned many Africans, not only in the USA, but the world over. Yeah.
Dr. Likuwa, at the start of our conversation, you mentioned how it's important to highlight and commemorate Black History Month and to make it visible, because in the education system and in the curriculums, it's not necessarily something that is specifically taught on. So how can schools, universities better incorporate Black history into their everyday curriculum and not just highlighted when the month of February comes around? Yeah,
it has been a struggle for many schools or universities the world over, and you'll, for example, see that in fact history as a study, let alone Black history, they have struggled actually to keep it alive at both school levels and university levels. But of course, I think there is a need for some radical kind of reforms, both at school level and university levels, to see how they begin to include this kind of history in their everyday curricula, not a once-off, as what we have come to see now. For example, at university level, I think there will be a need even to go as far as how do we train teachers that are well equipped to teach this kind of history in schools, so that it does not end up bringing more racial division, but rather racial unity from different racial groups in our societies.
Due to this inconsistent, for lack of a better word, coverage of Black history, what are some of the misconceptions that people have formed about Black history that you've often encountered?
Well, I think maybe the central one is for many people to link black history, for example, to black violence, particularly directed to other races. There is always that fear that maybe promotion of black history will result, for example, in another anti-racism towards other races. But this, of course, this kind of conceptions are in most cases based on, I think, feeling kind of misrepresentations, which is not correct. But these are mainly the fear of black violence, particularly against, for example, white races.
Well, in conclusion and closing, Dr. Likuwa, what message is it that you'd like to share with young Africans today as Black History Month does come to an end, about understanding and as well as embracing their history?
Right. I think it's very important that we embrace the history for the young people particularly, because there is always that understanding if we don't embrace history, we are bound to repeat the mistakes of the past. And I think for Africans, young Africans particularly, they should actually learn from the struggle of the elderly Africans who since the 1960s, particularly after the formation of the OAU, where some of the central figures like Haile Selassie of Ethiopia were very vocal about the importance of ensuring that we need to ensure that there should not be discrimination, racial discrimination, particularly for black or any other race. Because as long as we have that, there will never be peace in world affairs. So there's a need for young Africans to continue that struggle where, for example, we ensure that particularly the black race or the African race find their rightful place in human history, for example.
Yeah.
Right.
Doctor, thank you so much for being with us this evening. We do appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you so much.
Right.
That was Dr. Kletus Likuwa, Senior Researcher and Historian, talking to us about the meaning of Black History Month. We have some more conversations coming up. Do stay with us.